growth versus exploration or adventure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does the word growth include her automatically, or
It definitely.
is there something else that needs to be there to include her in that
It's
that new metaphor?
it's a sense of, it's definitely growth brings her more into it, and also of growth and it's like mutual growth.
So is it still life is at the beginning? Life is mutual growth, or life is it life is, or
Life
is it something else?
Before with life it was an exploration. So now it's
What's the new belief now?
love. I'm thinking about this. Love is life is love and growth.
Life is love and growth.
I mean, this is something that's just popped out from me.
Yeah. Life is love and growth. Does that include the positive parts of how life was an exploration as well as your wife?
Yeah.
So you get all of that together? Life is love and growth?
You know, right when I said that, it's just like all of a sudden, it's just like life is love and growth, and things just like. It's like.
So we can see the change is already beginning to happen. Is it okay with you if we go through the rest of the process?
Absolutely.
I want to give you this moment, to experience what you just realized. Because you're about to change life is an exploration to life is love and growth.
Yeah.
Does it feel right?
Yeah, feels good. Yeah, I mean, it's just.
Okay, so when you're ready, we're going to make that change.
Well, yeah, let's go.
I'm going to talk to them in a second.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to just backtrack what we did quickly, so that's kind of the first stage. And then the second stage is actually sort of locking in the change. So if you have your notes in front of you, you can see that we found a strongly held belief, and we elicited the submodalities. Then we elicited the submodalities of doubt or uncertainty, something that's in question. Then we looked at the differences between those. Then we elicited the unwanted belief. And I made some distinctions about parts of it that were still serving him as resources and parts of it that were limiting, because I wanted to really just look at the limiting part of it, right? So then we elicited the submodalities of that unwanted aspect of the belief. And then step 5, we explored the new belief. What is it that we want to replace that old belief with? That includes his wife and is also a belief that sort of fits with the other one, that matches its form. Life is an exploration, and now life is love and growth. Does that make sense to you around matching its form? We want it to be similar so that it holds a new space in him and replaces the other one. And now next we're going to move on and we're going to do the change. Okay?
Adam?
Yes. Question?
One of the things that's running through my mind is this is also shifting criteria. I mean, you could look at it from that perspective sort of too, can't you? In some sense?
Shifting what's important.
Yeah.
You mean values?
Yeah. Or
His value level around criteria, sure.
Right.
Yep. So this is an example of a belief change that has criteria in it, right? That's shifting. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to start with the unwanted belief. So I want you to remember the mushroom cloud, and it's that form of it. And take a moment to really notice those muted images Notice your wife at the bottom and
Yeah.
the mushroom tree-like image and the feelings that are associated with that. That feeling in your chest of heaviness and kind of a stuck place.
Yeah. Okay.
And I want you to begin to change those submodalities by beginning to notice that the colors and so on remain muted, but now you sort of step back from it a little bit. And there's no energy in it and it's not moving. And you begin to question whether it's really true or not. It's kind of smaller and out in front of you and still and quiet. And you don't feel any connection. So you begin to notice that that connection that you were feeling to it before begins to shift. You become removed from the connection and you sort of have this experience. You can feel that in your body, where you begin to question whether that is true for you anymore. Just as you had doubted that other experience earlier, you can begin to experience what it's like to doubt. The parts that were limiting about life as an exploration. Just notice what that's like. To have it change from belief to beginning to doubt whether it's true or not. Yeah? So stay there for a minute. Just stay there in that experience of doubt. And take that image and send it off into the distance.
Okay.
The image that's now doubted. Until it is totally out of sight. And now way out there in the distance is life, is love, and growth. Way out there on the horizon. And as it begins to come in closer to you, as it gets closer and closer, you begin to notice how vibrant it is. And how big and bright the picture is. And at a certain point, as it gets closer, you'll become associated into it. Love. Life is love and growth. And you step into it, and the colors become brighter and clearer. And you begin to feel a feeling of centeredness and connection. With life is love and growth. And you might hear some sounds in the background. Some rhythmic sounds. Sort of an in and out experience. Like a breath. And you begin to have a sense of its sacredness. Taking it in its reciprocal movement. Life is love and growth. And it can come in just how you want it, surrounding you. may even note that there's others there supporting this belief. Seeing it bright and associated, and making note of how it feels in your body as you embrace this new belief. Life is love and growth.
Very cool. Very cool.
How do you think about this new belief?
Oh, it's big. It's definitely this. It's big, bright, definitely associated. I mean, with the seven knowledge and everything, as a child of God, my wife is here. Instead of separate, we're here together in this journey. So it's very nice.
Take a minute to think of a time in the future when having this new belief will make a difference for you. Be as specific as you can so you can feel this new belief in operation. So that you can experience what it's like to have this new belief acting as a resource within you, guiding your actions, your thoughts, your feelings. What's that like?
Oh, it's very powerful. A sense of very strength and connected. I just get a sense of power. Just yeah.
You can enjoy the coming days allowing that belief to settle in more fully into your being.
I can just feel it. It's going to take this time just to settle a little bit to check out.
Thanks for being willing to come up here and share this.
Thank you.
Okay. So as is usual with demonstrations, if you've probably noticed throughout your NLP experience, they don't always match the notes exactly. I mean, the beauty of the notes is obviously to give us a structure, right? For learning, to follow something so that we can learn from it. But sometimes we have to adjust that to what's happening with the client, what's happening in the moment, right? So does anybody know what I adjusted? Is anybody aware of where I made a change? It was in the second half. I followed the first steps pretty straight on.
You didn't do step 8.
Exactly. So rather than bringing the belief the new belief into doubt and then into belief. There was no need. Why was that?
You'd already doubted, I mean, he had started.
Because you could see it happening before we even started that whole second half of the process, right? The new belief, when he stated it, he just went, and you could see all the physiology shift around it. So that step is important when the person isn't there yet. That step to take it into doubt first and then into belief is kind of more graceful and more subtle, helping the person to bring it into belief. But Gene had already done that on his own. So it might have felt a little strange to take something that he was already believing back into doubt and then back into belief again. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I just adjusted that a little bit for his experience. Did that feel natural to you, what we did? Okay. We can't ask him if it would have been awkward the other way because we don't know. But that was my intuition about that. So that gives you a clue as to sort of how important it is to watch a person's physiology and watch what's happening with the change as it's going along, so that you know whether you need that step or not. Or now, all the beginning steps are really important. The ones that we did all first, all the way through number 5, you need all that information, right? In order to do the process well and thoroughly. So in a lot of NLP processes, there's the setup, there's all the information gathering, there's all the exploration part first, and then there's the change. And in my experience, most of the time, when you do the setup and all that really thoroughly, the change already starts to occur. And the rest of it is just the ritual, the formality, the kind of locking it into place, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And that's true of a lot of NLP patterns. That when you do that beginning setup part really well, the change starts to occur already. And now all you need to do is nudge a little bit further. Okay? Any questions before we break for lunch? When we come back, we'll sort of go through the steps, make sure everyone's clear. So if you have questions about the steps, we'll do that after lunch, right before you start in and do it yourselves. If you have any questions about anything that I did, or you can ask that now. Any comments you want to make?
There were a few times when you used your language instead of Jean's language, and I was wondering why you did that.
I find sometimes that people's words are limited. You know, that they're having a rich experience, but they're not necessarily finding the words and articulating it as well as I would like them to. And the reason that I would like them to is so that I have more to work with later when I want to bring that experience in. If I only have a few words, then I can't enrich the experience as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so I noticed you test them out.
So I test them to make sure they're okay with him, so that when I use them later, they're not a surprise. They're not like words that I just decided to throw in there. So I'm like, he's like, it's kind of, not very clear or whatever. And then I say, so is it kind of faded or muted, or what's that like? And so then he can agree with me or whatever. So I kind of try and give a menu, so that I have again, a more rich experience to guide him into later. Now, sometimes the person will give you a very rich, very full description, and then I don't need to do anything. But my experience was Gene was much more in his kinesthetics. He was really feeling the experience, and so his words weren't coming as clearly around what he was trying to describe. Does that feel somewhat accurate?
Well, especially when
trying to put that into words is difficult. Child of God.
How do you explain that works?
Right. So I could have just used that. I could have just used child of God. Could have used that language to help him associate into it. But I really wanted the new belief separate from that title. I wanted it to be the title of Life is Love and Growth. So that's why I needed descriptors of what child of God really meant, what his experience of that was. Other questions about what we did?
I've got a process question, but maybe that can wait till after lunch.
Process can wait till after, yeah. Anything else that I did that you wonder about? Okay, time for lunch.